Broke black widower. Saves a 19-year-old being. Auctioned by her own parents. The auctioneer's voice thundered through the dusty room, each word hammering the final nails into a coffin of innocence. The girl stood frozen on the wooden stage, her eyes searching for help in a crowd that only saw her as property. Most looked away. One man didn't. A black widower with nothing but a battered wallet and a heart heavy with grief. What could a broke man possibly do against the cruelty unfolding before him? Yet in that moment, he knew walking away would mean living with a guilt heavier than his poverty. David Turner's life had been reduced to a quiet apartment, second-hand clothes, and memories he couldn't bear to pack away. Once a construction foreman, he'd lost his wife to cancer 2 years ago, then his job when the company downsized. Bills piled up, and he took odd jobs, fixing roofs, hauling scrap, anything to keep the lights on. That morning, David had been delivering reclaimed lumber to an old warehouse on the outskirts of town. It was supposed to be a quick drop-off, but voices inside made him pause. Curiosity pulled him to the open door, where he saw rows of folding chairs and a raised platform. On it stood a thin, trembling girl in a faded dress, no more than 19, her hands clenched in fear. A large sign at the back read, "Private Auction." At first, David thought it was antiques or livestock. Then he caught the murmurs, "Starting bid, 10,000. His stomach turned. This wasn't an auction for things. It was for her. And the most gut-wrenching part? Her own parents stood in the corner, avoiding her gaze, waiting for the highest offer. David's mind raced. He had nothing close to $10,000. He didn't even have enough for next month's rent. But as the bidding began, he felt the same pulse of adrenaline he'd felt the day his wife first told him she was pregnant. A surge that said, "Do something. Now." David slipped into the back of the room, his mind whirling. Men in expensive suits and polished shoes called out numbers like they were buying cars, their voices casual, detached. The girl's shoulders shook, but her eyes, dark, fierce, scanned the crowd like she was silently begging for someone to see her as a person, not a price tag. The auctioneer's gavel banged. 15,000. Do I hear 16? David's mouth went dry. He had barely $200 in his account, but he remembered his wife's words, spoken on her hospital bed. If you see someone in trouble and you can help, you help, even if it costs you. He walked forward. 16,000. Heads turned. The room went quiet for a beat, then a ripple of laughter spread. The auctioneer eyed David's worn boots and patched jacket. "Sir, we'll need proof of funds before—" David interrupted, voice steady but loud. "You'll get your money." He didn't have a plan. All he knew was that each second counted. The bidding continued, but David didn't back down. Each time another man raised the price, David matched it. The tension in the room shifted from casual interest to heated rivalry. The girl's eyes locked on his, not in hope yet, but in stunned disbelief. Finally, the last competitor shook his head. "Let him have her," the man sneered. "Sold. 17,000 to—" The auctioneer leaned in. "Name?" "David Turner." The girl was ushered off stage toward him. "Payment?" the auctioneer demanded. David's heart pounded. He reached into his wallet, pulled out everything, cash, credit cards, and placed them on the table. "The rest you'll have by tomorrow." He knew he was lying, but he also knew he wasn't letting her walk back into the arms of the people who'd just tried to sell her. As David and the girl stepped toward the exit, the girl's mother blocked the doorway. "She's our daughter," she hissed. David met her gaze. "No, not anymore." A man, likely her father, moved closer, his fists clenched. "You don't have the money. She's coming with us." David's voice rose. "I'll get the money, but she's leaving with me. Now." The commotion drew others from the crowd. Whispers grew. Some pulled out phones, recording. The tension thickened until the auctioneer, sensing trouble, waved them through. "Let them go," he muttered. "This is bad for business." Outside, the late afternoon sun spilled across cracked pavement. David turned to the girl. "What's your name?" "Lena," she whispered. They walked quickly, neither speaking. Every step felt like borrowed time. David knew they had to get somewhere safe. Fast. He led her to his beat-up truck, started the engine, and drove toward the nearest women's shelter he knew of, a place his late wife had volunteered at years ago. The whole drive, Lena stared out the window, her hands gripping her knees. When they arrived, David walked her to the door. "You're safe here," he told her, his voice low but certain. She looked at him, finally meeting his eyes. "Why? Did you do it? You don't even know me." David swallowed. "Because someone should have done it for my wife and didn't." Word of the auction rescue spread quickly, first through whispers in the shelter, then through local news when someone's recording hit the internet. People were outraged that such an event could happen in their own town, that parents could betray their own child so completely. Police launched an investigation. Lena's parents were arrested for human trafficking, and others connected to the auction faced charges. The warehouse was shut down, though David knew it was just one branch of a much larger, uglier tree. Lena was placed with a foster family that specialized in helping trafficking survivors. She began therapy, enrolled in classes, and slowly started to smile again. She wrote David letters, short at first, then longer, about her progress, her dreams, and her gratitude. David never found the $17,000 he'd promised. No one came to collect. Some said the auctioneers didn't want more, public attention. Others believed it was divine intervention. For David, it wasn't about the money. It was about living with himself. His wife's voice echoed in his mind every time he thought of that day. If you can help, you help. Months later, he sat at the shelter's annual fundraiser watching Lena stand at the podium. She spoke about survival, about the kindness of strangers, about how one moment can change a life. Then she looked directly at him and said, "And sometimes the poorest person in the room is the richest in courage." The audience rose in applause. David didn't see himself as a hero, just a man who refused to look away. Because in a world where people are still sold, the most dangerous thing isn't the auctioneer's gavel. It's the silence of those who choose not to act.